Hey everyone, it's Lonk the Sane. Good to have you back once again. Let me just say before we begin that if you hear any weird noises in the background, I'm in the middle of a winter storm right now. It's not even the fun kind of winter storm, it's just all sleet and ice, misery and sadness. There's no snow. Well, not yet. They say that's coming tomorrow, but we'll see. So there's going to be plow trucks going by. There's stuff bouncing off the side of my house. So any weird noises, that's probably what it is. Anyway, this is a new segment on my channel I'm calling Ladder Time. A lot of the decks I show on here aren't going to be the most competitive. For example, the ones in my Color Wheel series are meant to illustrate a point. They're meant to educate, so they're not necessarily built to be competitive. Some of the ones I show on here are just going to be fun decks that I think are cool, but the ones I show on Ladder Time, these are the ones you can plug in and go climb the ranks on the ladder with. And I've got a good one here for you today. This is one that I've been playing a ton on the ladder. This is climbing me up through gold. This is Orange Purple Control, otherwise known as Peach Control. And we'll get to why it's called Peach Control in a little bit. But first things first, I am not the one who created this deck list. This was posted on mythgardhub.com by a player named NKL. And I will post the link to that in the description below. But the way NKL describes this deck is it's a very grindy sort of control deck. It plays somewhat like the red, orange, heaven, and hell type decks with a little more of a long-term game plan. And it's very good against aggro, very good against mid-range, especially the red, orange, heaven, and hell decks, which are everywhere, and okay against control. I will say that it's not as favorable matchup against control, but certainly they're not bad odds against control. Like, this deck really can go toe-to-toe with the control decks. So I wouldn't say there's any matchup that is particularly unfavorable to this deck. You have a shot in any matchup that you get. So let me just run through the cards real quick, and then I'll highlight a few of them afterwards. So in orange, we're going to see most of the stuff you're used to with orange. Our path is going to be Turn of Seasons. Power is going to be Impel. Not surprising there since we're playing a control deck. But we've got 3 Eager Recruit, 2 Dark Passenger, 1 Lamp of Wonders. And I know when I did my Mono Orange video, I said I did not own a copy of the Lamp. I wasn't interested in playing a copy of the Lamp. Well, as it turns out, I actually am a fan of the Lamp now. I thought I'd try it out because it was in the deck list, and yeah, I actually like it. It's actually a really good card, so live and learn. I kind of regret not having in that video now, but anyway, moving on. We got 2 Xerxian Recruiter, 3 Serendipity Ifrit, 3 Shadowvar Beast, 2 Parry at the Gates, 1 Sign of Pride, 1 Seal of Exile, 1 To Heaven and Back, 1 Kuchil the Unforgiving, and 1 Armageddon Angel because Armageddon Angel. And now we get into purple. We have 4 Racer and Shadow, 3 Steam Bun, 2 Peach of Life, this deck's namesake, 2 Sword Saint, 1 Rogue Eidolon, 1 Master of Shadows, 1 Nine-Tailed Vixen, 1 Reincarnation, 1 Spirit Away, 2 Tarragon, and 1 Jinsuk Dollmaster. So this plays a lot like you would expect an orange-centric deck to do. It wants to play its smaller minions out early on, make trade after trade after trade after trade until it can get into the bigger stuff, or in this case, into some of the more controlling elements of this deck. But basically the purple in here is to augment and what orange is trying to do and also shore up some of orange's weaknesses. For example, one of the big weaknesses of orange is that it doesn't have any life gain in it. It's very versatile in what it does, but doesn't have any way to gain you life. Well, that's where we come in with the Peach of Life. This is a card that ties in perfectly with what orange is trying to do. With the Peach of Life, you gain 1 life for each minion in your boneyard. If there's 7 more minions in your boneyard, draw a card. Like I said, orange in the early game is trying to make trade after trade after trade, and this is a sort of payoff for those early trades. You can easily get some minions into your boneyard so you can get the card draw with it, but this can gain you a whole bunch of life in the mid and late game. And if you're facing an aggressive deck, be able to gain that much life in one swoop can be a huge problem. So this can put you out of reach of those aggressive decks. They're trying to take you out as fast as they can. Suddenly they have, another 12 life they have to try to take you down. And oftentimes they'll just run out of steam before they can. So life gain is good against the aggro decks. It's also good against the mid-range decks. So, this is a central card to this deck. The other way we have to gain life is the Sword Saint. We have 2 copies in here, like I said. This puts a Biting Blade into our hands, which we can then play on a minion and give it life tap. So that's another way this deck gains life. And it shows up one of Orange's biggest weaknesses. And I also mentioned there are some control elements that we can get on the board to try and take over. One of the big ones is this one right here, Jinsuk Dollmaster. One of the most underrated cards in Mythgard. The ability to shift a player's minions to far left or right as possible is extremely, extremely good. The positioning element in Mythgard is huge. If you can't position well, chances are you're going to lose matches. So to be able to just sweep enemy minions to the side or to take your minions and sweep them away from danger is just huge. It can swing a game in an instant. And especially when we're playing, like I said, a lot of smaller minions, this can move the bigger ones aside and help you, poke away at your opponent. Then we also have Reincarnation. Reincarnation, you can play defense, let the opponent's minions crash into you, play out your Reincarnation, bring them back, and your opponents will still be in Boneyard, so you just gave yourself some pretty big card advantage. By the way, to replay them, it costs 0 mana. 0. You do have to pay the cost in gems, though, so you got to watch that. And if there are 6 or more minions above this card, you get to put it back in your hand. So, yeah, this is a card you can play multiple times in a single game, and it can have a big effect when you can bring your stuff back from the graveyard. And the other control element we have is Rogue Eidolon. Your opponent plays out the big minion. This just shuts it right down. So I'm sure you're familiar with this card. There's a reason why it's in almost every purple deck. It's just an excellent card all around. The other important thing to note with this deck is that the mana curve, as you see on the bottom right, it's not structured like your typical control deck. With green-yellow control, you see a lot of minions in the 5, 6, 7 or more mana cost range. Here we start with 10 1-mana things, and then our curve just slopes downward after that. The reason being is with green-yellow control, they're trying to, in the early turns, stall you out. They're trying to remove stuff off the board. They're setting up their pieces. So when they get to 5, 6, 7 mana, they can maybe wipe the board with a Misanthropy at turn 5, and then just start playing big minion after big minion after big minion after big minion until eventually you're overwhelmed because you can't keep up with them. But with this deck, we're playing much more orange-centric type of game. Like I said, very grindy, just small minion after small minion. Make trading after trade after trade, but with the control elements that we have in here and some of the support from purple, we can take that game plan and stretch it out a lot longer than a typical orange deck can do. So, yeah, it's a very interesting sort of control deck, very different from your average control deck, and I think it's time we start getting into some games. But before we do, let me just tell you who we're going to be facing. Our first match is going to be against a red-orange Heaven and Hell deck. Like I said, this deck has a very good matchup against red-orange Heaven and Hell, and as I'm sure you're aware, those decks are all over the ladder right now, so the fact that this is good against this helps you out tremendously when you're trying to climb up the ranks there. The opponent we're going to be facing is Koolkat. He is a YouTuber, and he's a really cool guy. I've talked with him before on Reddit. So I will put a link to his stuff below. Definitely go check that out. It's very good. It's very interesting. And yeah, he's a very good player. So that's an exciting match. Our second match is going to be against a green-yellow splash red control deck piloted by AceMartinez. Ace is actually a partner with Mythgard. He has a few videos on YouTube, but I think he's mostly a Twitch streamer. I will put a link to his YouTube stuff down there, so you can go check him out as well. Both are going to be fun, exciting matchups. And I will say I didn't plan it out that way. I just happened to face them, and yeah, they're both YouTubers, but they both happen to be excellent matches which we're trying to illustrate the points I'm trying to make. So those will be fun. Also, when I do the videos, I'm not going to do the play-by-play like I usually do. I'm just going to kind of let them play out, and I'll interject here and there when I have something to add. So with all that said, let's get in the matches, and we'll see how this deck does against Red, Orange, Heaven and Hell mid-range, and against Green, Yellow, Red control. Okay, first game is against Koolkat's Red, Orange, Heaven and Hell deck, and let's see if we can grind this one out. Let's go.
Reporting. Reporting.
Leave it all on the track.
We have a mission.
And so far so good. We're just trading punches here, matching each other blow for blow. Normally I would burn the Angel since we are so early in the match, but I wanted to hold on to Armageddon Angel because Koolkat was off to such a fast start. I figured he'd be swimming in minions by the time we got to turn 7, so my gut was telling me hold on to it, so I did.
Leave it all on the track.
And we're still kind of just filling each other out, matching up very well. And that was a bit of a mistake on Koolkat's part. Yeah, been there, done that. Play out the trapezes, but you forget about Shadowvar's -1, -0, so didn't quite work.
Fortune favors us. Reporting.
Now we're 6 turns in and our boards are exactly the same.
At last.
Hey there.
So he does have answers to our Scion and our Lion, but now we're at the top end of our curve. Let's throw Jinsuk into the mix.
Who pulls your strings?
We'll just sweep them aside, swing in for 8, and just like that, we're threatening lethal. And I put Jinsuk where I did because if he did have an answer for our minions, I didn't want him swinging for too much damage. But Jinsuk's just going to remove the token. We'll move the line over, and we'll swing in for lethal. So, you saw there the first several turns, we were just kind of matching each other blow for blow, trading off, grinding it out. And once we were able to get the Jinsuk into play, add a little more control to the board, we were able to just sweep them aside, get in for a bunch of damage, and just ended up winning the game after she was able to remove that token. So, yeah, like I said, this deck is very much built to match up against grindy decks like this. Heaven and Hell can get off to a very fast start, but if we're able to stabilize with this, once we're able to get some of the more controlling aspects into the match, this just plays a little bit better long game than that to Heaven and Hell decks do. And as you saw there, once Jinsuk came in, that sealed the victory for us. So that was a good game number 1. I don't know how we're going to top that, but just wait till you see the control matchup. Let's move on to game number 2. Alright, our second match is going to be against AceMartinez, playing green-yellow with a splash for red control deck. And let's get this one started, and strap yourselves in, this is going to be one wild ride. And I know that I said this was going to be a wild ride, but we both have kind of slow hands to start with, so just bear with me. It will get better, I promise.
Fortune favors us.
Leave it all on the track. At last.
That's going to be board wipe number 1. You might want to keep track of these at home. And I thought that was strangely early to play that out. I would have thought that he would want to bait a little more power onto the board first before he wiped this out. But as you can see, he has a second one in hand, so he wasn't that worried about it. And fortunately, we have a creative answer for Sapo. Alright, so he just played Bald Mountain. So he put the Misanthropia back into his hand. At this point, I just want to get as much value out of the Tarragon as possible. I also want to put a little more power on the board, try to bait it out. That way he's not holding on to it forever.
Do we have a mission?
And board wipe number 2.
Cloaked in shadow.
So I put the Master of Shadows in front of the Bald Mountain to try to keep his minions from activating it, to keep them from getting any more spells back. I figured as long as he doesn't have the other Misanthropia, we should be okay. But little did I know, he already had it in hand. That's board wipe number 3.
Covering fire.
Fortunately, we have a cheap answer for this heavy.
Leave it all on the track. Muere.
Duerme.
And thankfully, we have the Armageddon Angel, or else I might have been in some real trouble here.
Targets down.
And I know I've said several times on my channel already, you typically want to play Seal of Exile on a minion that has multiple targets. That way you get the most value out of it. But Short Stag was an example where I had to take care of it quickly, or else it was going to cause a real problem. So Yeah, I had to play out the seal there.
Fortune favors us.
That's Wonder Drug number 1. That's another card you want to keep track of at home.
Reporting. Do we have a mission?
And this kind of highlights the difference in strategy with our 2 decks. He's trying to play large minion after large minion. I'm just trying to go wide here, play out as many as I can. And that's Wonder Drug number 2.
Looking good.
At this point, we are thoroughly in control of the board. In what may be a Mythgard first, he plays Volition on his own clay effigy just to activate the Ball Mountain to get the Misanthropia back, and yeah, the writing's on the wall.
Leave it all on the track.
Peach is a great pickup. Board wipe number 4. At the very least, we can be thankful he doesn't have any more board wipes in his deck. Both of his Misanthropias are now gone. Playing out the Pearl early was a mistake on my part, since now he can just beat us down with our own minion.
Good.
I really didn't want to spirit away my own Tarragon, but
Reporting.
I can't afford to let him get control of the board at this point. But it is going to put the 0-3 into our own deck, which kind of sucks.
Who pulls your strings?
Right. Jinsoka's going to sweep Meso Libre aside, so it can't hop onto the Ball Mountain.
Good. There are always
Below the Witch Queen.
consequences. Duerme.
And he's going to deploy his pair of twins. So for the first time this game, he's got a bunch of large minions on the board. And I don't have a good answer right away.
Good.
And I put the pikes on the steam bun to attack the twin, but forgot about the defender on the maze, so
Hey there.
another mistake on my part. I'm getting a bit sloppy. I play out the hollow that I put into my own deck. He plays out the lantern I put into his deck. So in one fell swoop, all my past decisions are coming back to haunt me. So he brought back the Wonder Drug with the Bald Mountain, and he's going to play Wonder Drug number 3. Alright, Peach of Life once again. So now we've really given ourselves a huge cushion in case he does happen to take over and control the board. We have some time to try and come up with a solution. And I'm glad I moved the hollow over here, because he's going to play Volition on the twin. But because we had 3 minions in front of it, we'll be able to prevent ourselves from taking any damage. Alright, there's the reincarnation. Put back in Silk, and put back the hollow. And once again, we'll sweep his minions aside, keep him off of Bald Mountain. And as you can see, he's down to just 1 card remaining in his deck. We only have 2. So he's going to start taking depletion damage before us. And now the game plan is to just stall out long enough that he can lose to depletion. The Haiku is not going to help.
How intriguing.
And Lamia's Kiss on the Haiku. We're so close to winning, and now we're so far. He plays Volition on it also to give him another attack, so he just gained 20 life. Brought Volition back with Bella, so this is not looking good for us. But fortunately, we have enough of a cushion that maybe we can hold on long enough for him to take enough depletion damage to lose. But he's just gaining a whole bunch of life off the Haiku. Fortunately, we have enough life ourselves that we don't just outright die to it, even though it's done 40 damage to us already. And I did burn the Racer and Shadow just so I could play out the Recruit without taking any damage for depletion. And at this point, he's out of answers, so all we have to do is pass the turn. He's going to take 32, then 64 damage because he's going in the fall, and we win the match. So, we had to put a hollow into our own deck. He board wiped us 4 times. He used Wonder Drug on himself 3 times. If there is a better example of how this deck can go toe-to-toe against the other control decks, please post it in the comments below. I would love to see that video, but yeah, I said this deck can play a really good long game, and that was a prime example of it right there. He threw everything except the kitchen sink at us, but we were able to find answers for almost everything he threw at us, and eventually we were just able to stall it out because we had so much life thanks to Peach of Life. We were able to hold out long enough for him to die depletion damage. Never a way I expected to win a match, but yeah, I have to say that's hands down the greatest game of Mythgard I've ever played, so my hat's off to you, Ace. That was one hell of a game. And yeah, I think both those matches show exactly what this deck can do. We grinded it out against Red, Orange, Heaven, and Hell, and we played a long game against another control deck, so this deck I think is very powerful, very good in this metagame, and I highly recommend it to anybody that's looking to climb the ladder. So that's going to be it for me today. Thank you all for joining me once again. I will be back on Monday. I'll be doing the next in my Color Wheel series. It's going to be Mono Green. Those should be some fun and interesting games. And if you would, hit the like and subscribe button below. Always happy to have new fans. And I look forward to seeing you guys again in the next match. So thank you all for tuning in. See you next time.